My name's Lee, and today I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process to create an iconic look I like to call the wolf cut. You could look at this as the rockstar cousin to the mullet. It might shock you to learn that this cut is created using only 2 zones. Let's get into it. Before starting any haircut, it's important to assess the hairlines and growth patterns to see if there are any fixed factors that might have a negative effect on a desired outcome. For this tutorial, I opted to use a pivot point mannequin head. Unfortunately, these heads are extremely high quality and have well balanced hairlines and natural growth patterns, so there isn't too much to worry about. The first thing I'm going to do is spray down the hair until it is thoroughly damp. This can be achieved with a spray bottle or alternatively shampooed and conditioned at the back basin. As I mentioned in the introduction of this video, the zone design of this haircut has been broken up into just 2 zones, above the round of the head and below the round of the head. The magic here is the placement of the internal zone. I'm going to start by splitting the head into 4 quadrants, through the centre of the head, separating side from side, and across the top of the head, separating front from back. This allows me to have maximum visibility and accuracy when sectioning out these zones. Starting at the front, I'm going to determine my first zone. Now my choice here was to keep the internal zone above the rounding of the head. This means I have to be mindful of the rounding of the head towards the front and towards the sides. If I dip below these points, I risk not leaving enough hair around the perimeter to achieve the desired result. A great point to consider when creating section lines is what kind of lines are you going to use. Here, I'm choosing to use round section lines. This will add maximum fluidity and softness to the look as the head shape is naturally round. If I incorporated stronger straight lines, the finished look would lean more towards the stronger and structured side. Understanding this gives you the option to choose what kind of aesthetic you want to achieve. Moving on to the next quadrant, I'm going to assess the roundings of the head, pick my start point and my end point, and use the tip of my comb on the scalp to complete the section line. Once I'm happy with the zone placement, I will go ahead and gather together both quadrants and secure with a clip. Moving on to the back now, as you can see, I already have my start and end points as reference points from the zone I created in the front. All I need to do now is assess the rounding of the back of the head, which is the occipital bone, and hover just above it when completing this zone. Once I'm happy with the placement of this zone, I will again gather all quadrants together and secure with clips. Now that the zone design is complete, I'm ready to start cutting. When approaching any haircut, it's important to consider the start point and the end point. I'm choosing to start this haircut at the front. This is because it's a lot shorter at the front than it is at the back and will act as a reliable gauge for the rest of the haircut. I'm going to start by sectioning a small amount of hair at the centre front using a triangular layer. I chose this shape because I want this look to be somewhat head-hugging and slim internally. This layering technique allows me to collapse the internal shape while maintaining enough length towards the perimeter. Once I'm happy with the choice of length, I will move on to the next section. Each subsequent section will be no wider than the width of my comb, sectioned using a vertically diagonal line, and over-directed to the previous section, utilising a travelling guideline. Once I reach the corner of the front hairline, this section will now become a stationary guideline, and all subsequent sections will be over-directed towards it, leaving much more length towards the back. I'm going to carry on now in the same fashion, utilising vertically diagonal sections and making sure I over-direct each subsequent section to my new stationary guideline at the front corner of the head. Once I'm happy with how this side is looking, I will then move on and repeat this process on the other side. On completion of both sides, check for balance before moving on. Now that the first zone is complete, I can now move on and work on my second zone, which is focusing above the round of the head. The zone I just completed will act as a guide for the zone on the top. This is incredibly useful as it takes out a lot of the guesswork. Remember earlier on in the video, I mentioned about considering the start and end point of the haircut. This is where this really comes into play. As you can see, I have a guide from the length in the front and a guide from the length in the back. Now all I have to do is connect these points together. I'm choosing to use a layering technique cut on a vertical plane and utilising a triangular shape. In a similar fashion to the previously cut zone, this shape will allow me to create shorter lengths towards the front and longer lengths towards the back. I'm also choosing to cut this zone on a vertical axis and standing at the side of the head for maximum visibility and control over my desired shape and length. Each subsequent section will be no wider than the width of my comb and over-directed to the previous, utilising a travelling guideline to ensure balance throughout the horizontal plane. Once this side is complete, I'm going to repeat this process on the other side. Once both sides are complete, I'm going to cross-check for balance. Now that I've finished the structure of this haircut, I'm going to move on and personalise the look. I've decided that I want to start at the front and work on balancing the perimeter of the look first. Using my razor, I'm going to start in the centre of the fringe and gently glide over the surface of the hair until I'm happy with the density. Next, I will incorporate the subsequent sections either side of the fringe and connect them on a steeper angle using the razor along the edge of the hair rather than on the surface. This will leave extra density in the mid-lengths while adding fluidity to the exterior. I'm going to continue around the face line in a similar fashion, adjusting the length, adding extra fluidity to the look. Much like before, it's important to over-direct these sections towards the front so I maintain length towards the back. Moving on now, I'm going to be switching to a slicing scissor and cutting in some purposeful channels throughout the haircut to give the layering some looseness and irregularity. Notice I'm working in columns from the internalmost point to the externalmost point. This is to ensure I don't overcut any given section, giving me complete control over the desired outcome. As the hair on the top is quite short, I'm going to switch to a chipping technique. This technique is very similar to channel cutting, except it's over the fingers this time and pushing away from me. Once I'm happy with the overall feel of the haircut, I will now move on to the styling. I'm using a generous amount and warming between my palms, ready to spread throughout all areas of the head. Next, I will distribute the product throughout the head with a wide tooth comb. This also encourages the cuticles to lay in the correct direction and allows me to place the hair where I want it to live. To style this look, I'm going to use my Dyson Supersonic with a diffuser attachment. For this styling technique, I'm using a low speed and a low heat, encouraging the texture to come to life with the diffuser. Around the face, I'm going to use my hand to hold the hair in place and allow the ends to wrap around my hand and away from the face to give a flicked out look. Now this is just my personal taste and can be styled towards the face if desired. I'm aiming to get the hair to roughly 60 to 70% dry. This will dry the hair enough to encourage texture, but not so much that it starts to turn frizzy. The aim here is to make it look like it's 2 to 3 days old. Once I'm happy with how the styling is looking, I'm going to finish off with a fine mist of water over the whole look just to rehydrate some of the ends and use my fingertips to place the hair and open up some purposeful pockets of definition. So there you have it guys, the iconic wolf cut. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I really believe there are some gems in here for barbers and hairdressers alike. To see more like this, please visit our extensive education library